Bonjour, I am Arnie Roth, the music director and conductor of Distant Worlds music from Final Fantasy. And I'm thrilled to be here at Otakuthon this year. We are going to be performing in Montreal in December at Place des Arts, and that will be our second concert in Montreal, and bringing new things, new pieces from the Final Fantasy catalog of music. So greetings to all of Quebec and Montreal. See you in December. Well, really, it was, the very beginning was as much by chance as anything else. Having been working in the music industry for many, many years, performing concerts, conducting for many artists. I was also the music director and conductor of an orchestra in Chicago, the Chicagoland Pops Orchestra. And as such, I have to look at concerts, scheduled concerts in our regular series. And at the time, I remember in 2004, I was taking note of a friend of mine, a production colleague, was suggesting that I look at the video game music concerts that were being presented in Japan by Square Enix, and that we should be interested in trying this as an orchestra. And they had been done for many years in Japan, and they hadn't ever played in North America ever. And so we took a look at it, and I ended up doing the very first public performance of the music of Final Fantasy. Was Dear Friends, and they had one concert that was at E3 in 2004, but it was mostly industry that were attending that. Ours was in February of 2005, Dear Friends, and it was open to the public, 4,000 seats, was sold out, and it was a fantastic concert. It was the first time that I met Nobuo Uematsu, the composer of Final Fantasy, and kind of, it's like this old line that's, the rest is history kind of thing, the Square Enix asked me to continue conducting the Dear Friends concerts. There were only 4 or 5 total concerts in 2005, just a few things, Dallas Symphony, Detroit Symphony, just a few things, and then it was done. And everyone was afraid there would be no more concerts. Square Enix then asked me to conduct the More Friends concert. Was a concert that we did in Los Angeles with Nobuo Uematsu's band, the Black Mages, playing, and I mixed and produced that as a live CD for release in Japan only, More Friends, for Square Enix. Then after that, the following year, they invited me to be music director and conductor of the Voices concert in Japan in 2006. Which I did with Nobuo Uematsu, and then right after that concert, we entered into actual negotiations and discussions about developing a global, worldwide kind of concert tour that really could embrace all the music of Final Fantasy and take it around the world to a lot of territories that had still never experienced the live concert. And that was the beginning of Distant Worlds. So now I run, essentially I produce the Distant Worlds concerts and take the concerts all over the world, including here in Montreal. That has been going since December of 2007. And so here we are 6 years later, and I'm happy to report that we've continued our license with Square Enix. They're happy, we're all happy. And we're moving forward. The concerts are not stopping. We're going to keep going. And we keep developing new music, of course. The Final Fantasy series is 25 years old, and it's hundreds and thousands of hours of music. So it's always a difficult thing of what's the next new piece we should put in, because every time we put a new piece into the concert, it means we have to pull something out. And so inherently, it's a big problem. Some of the most popular things we have to keep in, and that limits how many new things we can do, and so it's always that. The best would be if we were to do 3 nights in a row, and we can do different stuff every night. That is the best. And we've done a couple of 2-performance marathons. In Chicago, we did a Final Fantasy marathon where we did 2 on one day, completely different concerts. And literally both shows sold out, but it was completely different material on the 2. You know, the only thing that was the same on both was One Winged Angel. But other than that, completely different, you know. Dancing Mad was on one, you know, the opera was on another, that kind of thing. So I loved that, and I love the idea of one day doing a series of enough performances where we could really play a lot of music. So we actually, from the very beginning, announced this is our first Final Fantasy marathon, and that both concerts would be completely different from the beginning. And what we tried to do for the fans, and we try to do this, is give them, even if we're not publishing the entire list of what's going to be on each concert, we still wanted to give them 6 or 8 pieces, highlights of each one, so they could see which was on which. Suteki Dane might be sung on the evening, and Melodies of Life might be in the afternoon. Eyes on Me, and, you know, Dancing Man on one, the opera on another, Xanarkand on one, Aerith's Theme on another, you know, that kind of thing, so people would have a sense of what is on which program. We believe that we had about 50% of the audience went to both, which is
Not so frightening.
Yeah. And it's not a small venue, it was about 2,500 seats. We try to represent all of them. But when I say all, first of all, Distant Worlds is dedicated to, we've decided, you have to limit it somehow. It can't be just all the spin-off games and, you know, there's so many of them. So instead, we only do the main versions of the game. In other words, the first Roman numeral versions of each of the games. That's one limitation in Distant Worlds. Other tours yet to come, which we're working on, could embrace other spin-off versions, Tactics, Dissidia, you know, Advent Children, any number of other offshoots, 10-2, 13-2, but not in Distant Worlds. Distant Worlds, we stayed with the main Roman numerals. Okay, that's one thing. Then the other thing is we try to present the music as close to the way it was originally presented as possible. So even if they're orchestrated, and they were in 8-bit originally in the 80s or the 90s or whatever, you still can put them side by side with the original soundtrack and see that it's exactly the same. We've embellished we've enriched the harmonization and orchestrated, but we stayed true to the way it was originally presented. We really try to do that. I think it's wonderful to do the opposite kind of production, where it's more of an arranger's fantasy and he's using themes from. That's okay too, and I've done a lot of those concerts. But unfortunately, what that means, if you're the fan, you have to consider this, it means that the concert, the music is more 70% about what's in the arranger's head and creativity, and only 30 or 40% about the original composition. Right? They're just taking a kernel of that and embellishing it. So it's a different animal than Distant Worlds. But I think there's a place for all of those, but it's important that the fans clearly know that that's what we're doing. So you know what we're doing with Distant Worlds. And then if we do something else, we have to clearly explain what that is going to be. So yeah, I think that's the main difference with Distant Worlds. You had to ask that. That's the most difficult for Nobu and myself. We always look at each other like,
You have to choose one. If you have to choose one.
you know, no, because we don't want to. You see, no, there's too many that are. I love Xanarkand. I love Dancing Mad. I love One Winged Angel. I love. There are some themes from the newer songs the newer versions that I think are fantastic. For instance, Answers from Final Fantasy XIV, the main theme, one of his best pieces of music yet. Fantastic piece of music. Down, I could give you a better answer, like we said, favorite character theme or favorite battle theme or favorite, something.
So what is your favorite battle team and favorite character team?
Well, I do love Aaron's theme. I'm partial to that. It's a beautiful piece of music. And in terms of battle music,
Difficult.
it's difficult because all these that I've mentioned are close to my favorite. I mean, there are parts of Dancing Mad, the various parts of it that I think are fantastic and I love. I love Clash on the Big Bridge. I love Fight with Seymour. I think is a very cool battle music sequence, different than some of the others, and I like different. I can tell you there's one sequence in Fight with Seymour that Nobu Uematsu and I, after the concerts, we're sitting at a meet and greet, we're signing autographs for fans. We both start singing. At the, it's bum 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 ba-dum, bum ba-dum, bum bum ba-dum, dum dum bum bum ba-dum, bum ba-dum. I mean, for some reason, he and I are stuck on this thing, and we, after every concert, whether we played it or not, that's what we're singing afterwards. That and Send Roth, so. Yeah, I can tell you that I was surprised the first time we did Distant Worlds in Japan. And I've done other concerts there, Voices, things like that, but the first time we did Distant Worlds, Square Enix wanted us to do, we like to do One Winged Angel as an encore often. It's a great way to end the concert, and everyone's super excited about that, and we love that. But Square Enix, when we played in 2010 in Japan, they wanted us to do something new for an encore, just for Japan. And part of it was their own music division was driving this. And they were saying, believe it or not, the most popular piece of music from Final Fantasy in Japan is Clash on the Big Bridge, Battle on the Big Bridge. And I was surprised to hear that. And I said, great, I'll write an arrangement of it. And we used that for the encore. The funny thing happened on the concert, because I learned enough Japanese that I could read the audience and say a few key words in Japanese, and then pre-wrote all of my speaking parts for the concert. I wrote it out in English beforehand, and they translated it into Japanese, and so it was on the screen as I was saying it in English. So it would be in real time. We wouldn't have to wait for a translator each time, that kind of thing. It really worked out well, right? Of course, I have to say exactly what I wrote, but and it worked out really well. But when it came to the encore, because the construction of sentences in Japanese, often the subject is before the rest of the sentence sometimes. As I was turning around to say, and now for our encore, we want to play, before I could say the title, Clash on the Big Bridge, the title had flashed up on the screen. And all of a sudden they went, and 5,000 people just over, I couldn't hear myself. I mean, they just yelled over me before I even said the title in English. And I was like, I turned around and I said, oh, I see. Clash on the Big Bridge. So it was one of those great moments, really a great moment. And now we're going to play.
You didn't expect it?
And I didn't get it out. I couldn't. So, but when you ask about favorite battle music, Clash on the Big Bridge, One Winged Angel, certainly two of the most popular. Dancing Mad. I like Geneva, but I don't think I like it as much as these others, and Fight with Seymour as well. That's really a good one. I actually really like Those Who Fight. And the only orchestration we've done of that is in this new battle medley, which I'm bringing to Montreal, so we'll do that. I kind of really want to do a separate orchestration of that as a separate piece, but we haven't done that yet.
No? Why not?
Well, because now it's in the medley, so now I think Square Enix is going to say, well, no, you already have it. Remember, every time we add a piece in Distant Worlds, and we
stick it out.
no, well, not only that, but we're constantly adding pieces all the time. But every time we do, besides that other problem of having to reduce the size of the concert because we can't, we also have to create new video because that's part of our format, is that every time we're playing, there is some synchronization with a video content that has to do with that song. And so that's a hallmark of our concert tour, so we can't just play the new piece. We've made a couple of exceptions here and there, but when it was Nobuo Uematsu's birthday, on his birthday, on March 21st, we were playing a concert that night in Omaha, Nebraska, so we had to do something special. And he wanted Unrequited Love, believe it or not. I think it's from 9, Unrequited Love from Final Fantasy 9. And it's a piece that I never would have suspected, but he wanted that piece. And I said, fine. We have the score, so we played it, but without video, just for him, because he wanted that. And so we'll do that occasionally, but most of the time with video.
Okay.
You had to ask that too. Here's the quick, I'm going to try to answer this. Yes, I've tried it. We have Final Fantasy VII in our office. But the issue is, I played some other games, but the issue is, for the work that I do on Final Fantasy for the concert, I have to really be a really good player to be able to get up to some of the music themes that I want to hear. And I've never gotten good enough to do that. And the problem is that it would take so many hours of getting my skills up to a level where I could get to that. It's a lot more efficient for me to just simply call up Nobuo Uematsu or write to him and say, or Square Enix and say, look, send me a video segment, excerpt, and the earlier music scores and your sketches so I can figure out the best way to write this arrangement. Because by the time I get to that level, to get to that, I'm going to use that as an excuse, okay? The truth is, I want to find some time to get better on the game. I do. But the only one we have in the office right now is 7. But Nobuo Uematsu plays all these games. Believe it or not, I can tell you that he really does play them all. He really works on all of them, and he plays them.
Okay, that's good.